So, as a changeling, Siobhan Olafsdottir can appear however she chooses, but her default look is auburn hair and kind of a thicker build. She lost her family when she was a baby, and now is on a search both for answers of what happened to her family as well as other changelings.
Coden grew up in the industrialized city of Aurora. His family was well respected in the upper echelon of the city as tinkerers and engineers. Coden's parents were considered masters in the engineers corps of Aurora and were tasked with inspecting and verifying that the buildings, tools, and industrial engines operated properly and safely. When Coden was about 10 years of age, his parents died in an explosion while certifying one of the newer experimental industrial engines that Coden's uncle, a practiced sorcerer, had assisted in creating. After his parents' funeral, Coden's uncle took him in and immediately put him to work. The work was brutal, grueling work, and his uncle would starve him for days until he felt Coden deserved to eat. When Coden was 15, he had had enough. He had spent the last year crafting a new tool. The blueprint for the tool had been found in the basement of a decrepit building. There were unique runes and sigils that Coden recognized as multidimensional. What had appeared to be a scrap roll of paper seemed to call to him. He grabbed the roll and hid it amongst his prized belongings. He studied the blueprint, learned the sigils, ingrained them into his psyche. And on his 16th birthday, he completed his tool, calling it Wesson, after his father. He took this, a small bag of food, and left Aurora and his uncle's cruelty, hoping to never return again. Over the years, Coden began taking small jobs here or there, only using Wesson when needed. He became adept at planning ahead, making sure he always had the right tools for the job, and learning how to make friends wherever he went. His plans were always his own. He'd work with others on occasion, but always felt that they weren't as intelligent as himself, and would always follow his own plans instead of the team's. When Coden was 22, he was living around Mazil and wanted to work on a new project, one he'd been working towards in his mind for a while. He would need a small fortune to get started. He met with some rich but shady characters in Mazil who loaned him a large amount of money. Over the next year, his project neared completion. However, on the day of his first test, the project exploded outside of town. No one was harmed, but the money was now gone, and he had to figure out how to pay back his loan. His benefactor referred him to the bounty hunters. Coden learned their ways and knowledge, taking on even more and more dangerous jobs. By the time Coden boarded a boat to Durness, he had already hunted many supernatural creatures and created a reputation amongst his bounty hunting peers. However, no one was really sure what he looked like. They only knew he was very proficient with his jobs and couldn't be caught, unless he wanted to. Coden boarded the boat to Durness, hunting for supernatural creatures rumored to be on board the vessel. Here, he meets an eccentric group of characters and sees them as the perfect cover for his mission.
Tantor Rubell was left on the steps of the chapel in New Harmony. Being in an area that is human-occupied and looks down upon anything and anyone non-human, Tantor's childhood was a stressful one. He grew up in the church, being ridiculed by the rest of the acolytes and clerics for his size, being a Loxodon. At 7 foot and 350 pounds, he did not fit in with anyone. At some point in growing up, Tantor reached out and started spending most of his time in the woods outside of the city, communing and speaking with the animals. They were far more accepting of him than the humans in New Harmony. Upon reaching 17, Tantor could no longer take it. The humans in New Harmony were just the worst people imaginable. He preferred the presence of animals and critters over that of other people. He could not care less about the happenings or the end result of whatever he decided to do when humans were involved. He bore them no ill will, but didn't care about them either. He set out to find his destiny.
Zendril Alizaninka wasn't always the greatest sword fighter that she claimed to be. In fact, The beginning of her story is nothing like it currently is. When Zindril was born, something was different. Though her parents weren't human, she had the horns and tail of a tiefling, but her skin was a normal human tone. Thus, she was abandoned, but taken in by someone and given a loving home. Years later, sometime during the night, her adopted father was dragged home, beaten and bloody. In great pain, with every breath, he explained to Zindril her past. He wrote down the name of an old ship captain he knew, gave her what little money he had left, kissed her goodbye, and let her know, forget about this awful place and start a new life. Her journey led her to Sakura Falls, to a pirate by the name of Zartan. She told him the story of everything that had happened, and since he owed her adopted father, he agreed to look after her. The only condition was she would have to earn her keep, and for that, he would teach her the skills to survive. Over the years, to embrace her newfound life and family, she let her horns grow out, let her tail now show freely, and dyed her hair red. She also took very fast to swordplay, and her blade was only matched to her tongue, earning her many nicknames such as the Sea Devil. After some time, Zindril decided to go out on her own for a bit of her own solo adventures to see what trouble she could cause by the blade or by talking. Zartan agreed and said she was welcome back at any time. Now she travels with her current group, letting fate carry her where it may.
Cadmus joined the army at the age of 15 to learn the knowledge of fighting and war. Growing up, his parents always called him special and urged to be the best fighter of his kind, and to be proud of his golden-rimmed scales. They always said that he would be the one to bring his people to glory again, and back to a place they called home. After climbing the ranks for years, he retired at the rank of captain. Once he retired, he worked as a guard to keep himself from losing his skills, but grew bored of this quickly. He wanted to learn more of the world, seeing what other cultures and nations had to offer. He left his city and began his adventure for knowledge.
Unfortunately, our first episode didn't quite sound up to par as we had liked, and I had to toss the audio. So here's a brief summary of where our characters met and how they came to be wrapped up in their current situation. We first started at the grand opening of the new fight arena in Druness, where our players decided to test their luck in the ring. While battling in the last round, they realized the creature was a werewolf and the druid, Siobhan, brought them back to their human state. Instead of finishing the fight, though, they protected the woman and forfeit the game. The group decided that they should help the woman and get her back to Wolfhurst Isles. The group makes their way to the Isles, where the woman's husband tells them of the creatures that are attacking the village. The couple are from the old werewolf clan, but the creatures are nothing that they have seen before. The legends say that a gem kept their town from harm for the werewolves that plagued the Isles centuries ago, and while it's only stories, he believes the attacks have something to do with that. The group makes their way to the mayor's keep, where a wizard named Vale, dressed in the uniform of the New Harmony School, is there investigating the gem as well. The group does their own investigations while sabotaging Vale's, and comes across the source of the attacks. The group finds a cult using the townspeople's sacrifices to a demon, but are able to interrupt their plans. And at the last moment, Vale was able to pull the team out of the fight, saving them from the cult leader, and bringing them to safety of his ship, which is where we begin our story.